Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, so I guess here we are again. The so-called leftoid experts on TV are once again being proven categorically wrong in almost every regards in real time. Whether it's foreign policy, crime, energy, the economy, the same clowns on MSNBC and CNN who keep constantly skewing the numbers to predict the absolute worst case scenario as what's likely to happen. Well, time and time again, they are proven totally, absolutely wrong. And just lately, they've been forecasting doom around the corner. A failing economy thanks to tariffs, massive inflation thanks to tariffs, the cost of eggs, and of course, a booming deficit. Donald Trump's gonna explode the deficit, they tell you. But when the real numbers drop, which is what just happened, when the actual receipts drop, or I guess in this case, the monthly report card, it's always the same story. Dead frickin' wrong. Let's just say this tariff play might be working all right. Let me show you what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so I got a couple X posts here that go pretty frickin' hard. Let's start off with this one from Rapid Response 47. They write that tariff revenues grew to a record $27.2 billion in June, producing a $27 billion federal budget surplus for the month. You heard that right? Surplus. Well, let's go ahead and put that into perspective because I've got another post here from End Wokeness, which really helps do that visually. June of 2020, $864 billion deficit. That's, of course, the Black Swan COVID event. Then June of 2021, $174 billion deficit. June 2022, $88 billion. Then, of course, Joe Biden's inflation crisis, the increase in government spending at COVID levels needlessly after doubling the money supply, $222 billion deficit in the month of June alone in 2023, a slight slowdown in 2024, and now, thanks to Donald Trump's increased tariff revenue, a $26 billion surplus for the month of June 2025. Yet what did the media predict? Well, luckily I like keeping on to the receipts. I remember not so long ago MSNBC doing a big expert, scientific, with numbers and charts, analysis and presentation. You know, some real big brain Ivy League academic stuff. All the guys with the fancy degrees wearing the fancy suits on TV, just presenting the data.
If you're in the top 20% of Americans, you're going to get roughly a 3.7% increase in your after-tax income, really all from these tax cuts. But if you go all the way to the bottom and everything in between essentially leads you to the bottom, if you're in the bottom 20%, you actually lose $800. Why do you lose $800? You get a very small tax cut, and you get a very large cut in Medicaid and these other benefits that we were just talking about that affects the 20% disproportionately. So this is a highly regressive bill that essentially favors the wealthy, doesn't do much for the middle class, and hurts the poor. And then if you want to see this in stark comparison, if we simply eliminated the tax cuts for people making over $500,000 a year, which is roughly what President Biden was proposing, it would save $1.1 trillion. That happens to be just slightly more than the Medicaid cuts and the food stamps, or SNAP cuts, if you will, put together. So if we simply eliminated these tax cuts, we could eliminate these budget cuts on these poor people and end up, from a budget point of view, in the same place.
What a frickin' piss-poor analysis. That whole thing was what I call cooking the books to sell the Biden agenda. Totally skewing the numbers, ignoring tariff revenue, ignoring growth as a factor, just taking the flatline Biden economic numbers and extrapolating your data from that as a baseline framework so you could find these big increases in deficits, and so much being taken away from the lower class because Donald Trump's cutting your Medicaid. But Donald Trump isn't cutting Medicaid for pretty much anybody who actually needs it. No, he's removing illegals from the system and applying basic work requirements for able-bodied adults that Democrats for years championed.
From now on, our nation's answer to this great social challenge will no longer be a never-ending cycle of welfare. It will be the dignity, the power, and the ethic of work. Today, we are taking an historic chance to make welfare what it was meant to be, a second chance, not a way of life.
Oh, but this genius over here tells you that you're gonna lose out and that the deficit's gonna explode. Well, it looks like the exact opposite is happening. Because again, they're ignoring the two most important factors. First off, the tariff revenue, which is already hitting shockingly high levels.
We've taken in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the tariff, the major tariff not having started till the second quarter. So we could expect that could be well over $300 billion by the end of the year. We don't agree with CBO scoring, but for those who do, the CBO scored tariff income over the next 10 years at $2.8 trillion, which we think is probably low.
Tariffs alone could bring in over $300 billion just this year. They told you it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to be significant. Yeah, I'd say $300 billion for phase 0.5. That's a pretty damn successful pilot program. And just in the month of June, it seems to be working out spectacularly. And after all the naysaying and all the doomsaying from the media, after telling us that the Trump team is completely incompetent and they have no idea what they're doing, again, I'm sensing a pattern here where they're saying something back in April.
I think it's a combination of both. So we're going to take in long-term tariff revenue. We put a process in place. We have 18 important trading relationships. We will be speaking to all of those partners, or at least 17 of them, over the next few weeks. Many of them have already come to Washington. What President Trump is referring to is the ability for tariff revenue to give income tax relief. And I think there's a very good chance that we will see this in the upcoming tax bill. The president campaigned on no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and the restoring interest deductibility for autos, for American-made autos. So tariff income could be used for tax relief on all those immediately.
That was Scott Besson explaining the Trump plan back in April of 2025. So during the peak of this hysterical media counter to the Trump tariffs, that was him laying out the plan, and now it seems everything's going quite swimmingly and according to plan. No explosion of the deficit here, at least not in the short term. We'll see how things progress here. But now to the next phase, which is economic growth. You got so much money pouring into computing power and data centers, AI technology and startups and tech companies, and now commodity production and steel manufacturing.
The U.S. is going to be opening its first rare earth mine in more than 70 years.
This is a critical moment for the U.S. We are going to get 6 of these 17 rare earth elements that are used in everything from warplanes to semiconductors and powerful magnets and even things that go into our cell phones. Now, this is revolutionary for not just us, but our allies, as we'll be able to break our dependence on China to acquire these rare earth minerals. Now, what I want to tell you about is China not only provides 70% of the U.S. supply, but also mines 70% of the world's rare earth minerals. China has basically cut off the rest of the world now from acquiring 7 of these elements since April in retaliation for President Trump's tariffs.
The United States uses about 10,000 tons a year of rare earth. We've got 1.7 million. So just on the math, that's north of 150 years worth of supply just at this mine. So this mine will basically be America's answer to China.
All of this is signaling growth, and after initial fear of recession, we've got the Atlanta Fed again predicting some pretty stellar GDP numbers. Their initial high prediction was 4.6, now it's been revised down to 2.6, as you guys can see right over here. We'll see where the number lands by the end of the quarter, but it's certainly trending in the right direction. And what's beautiful about this is that it's real GDP, it's not government spending to hire all kinds of government contractors and make all kinds of new departments or funnel money to all kinds of NGOs so you can fake growth like Joe Biden did. No, this is real economic growth, and it's now translating in the numbers, because the Atlanta Fed is predicting over 4% wage growth. Take a look at the Atlanta Fed's wage growth tracker. Wage growth remains high, except the only difference between the Biden era and the Trump era is that wages are going up while inflation is coming down. So basically, Trump is doing and accomplishing the exact opposite of what the experts at MSNBC predicted in their analysis. There's no exploding deficit, no tax increase on the lower class, no Trump is lowering taxes, making programs more lean and sustainable, and doing the groundwork for massive economic growth. And this is going to benefit people. It's going to benefit all people, from lower to upper class, not this figment of the Democrat imagination where any economic growth, any capitalist activities only ever benefits the top 1%. It's just not the case. Open, free trade with lean regulation and lean taxes, that framework of economic freedom has lifted billions of people out of poverty worldwide. And the Trump angle seems to be adding a little bit of a stimulant to the economy side while maintaining post-inflationary spending levels and maybe cutting a little bit in certain places, but maintaining that level and now I guess pushing beyond it through trade, production, and tariffs, and not just endless money printing. I don't know, call me crazy, but it seems like it might be working. At least that's what the preliminary data is telling us. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.